Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. It's a couple of minutes before 10:30 a.m. here in Seoul, and we are breaking into our regular programming to bring you live coverage of President Park Geun-hye's special address to the nation. She's going to speak about the corruption scandal involving her longtime friend Choi Soon-sil, and this is the only place you'll be able to watch it live as it happens with English translation. Now, we first heard the president will be giving this address late Thursday when the president's spokesperson sent a text message to reporters. No details were released, but many expect the address will likely include her vision of how the government will run going forward. We do have our Hwang Jie joining us in the studio this morning. Thank you for being here, Jie.
Hi, Mark. Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. This address comes around a week and a half after President Park said sorry to the nation for the presidential speeches leaked to Chair.
Exactly, Mark. And since then, the scandal has snowballed even further, with new revelations and serious allegations emerging by the day, if not by the hour. This is certainly the biggest crisis of President Park's political career and arguably the biggest political crisis in decades in Korea. The scandal has sent the president's approval rating to new lows and triggered nationwide calls for her to step down. And as you mentioned, we don't know what she is planning to say, but multiple sources within the ruling Saenuri Party told Korea-based Yonhap News Agency that the president is considering making another apology and could express her willingness to accept a comprehensive probe into her actions.
And we also hear she might outline plans to delegate her executive power to her Prime Minister nominee, who she tapped earlier this week, put him in charge more on the economy and social issues, and she'd take charge of foreign affairs and whatnot, in the hope that this could allay the public outrage to the scandal. But I hear we're about to go over to the president. Yes. We're going to start now.
Well, with the scandal regarding Choi Soon-sil, I offer my deepest apology to cause great distress to the people of Korea. Above all, I feel deepest regret and apology to the people of Korea who entrusted me in this position of presidency, and it breaks my heart to cause this much pain to the people of Korea. There are many people who worked with me, the public officials in the government, and the people in the scene, and all the people who gave us help, the businessmen who gave us help with great heart. I feel great remorse about disappointing you. The national economy and the life of people were my top priority, and I did all the programs to help the people of Korea, and a certain number of people were engaged in corruption and fraud, and I find this situation devastating. All these scandals and all this situation comes from the fault of mine, and it is my mistake and my error that let this situation develop this far. I do feel grave responsibility for this situation. Yesterday, Choi Soon-sil was arrested for grave, serious crime, and An Jong-bum, the former senior secretary for economic affairs, were arrested for criminal investigation. There's a special investigation team in the public prosecutor's team who are undertaking prompt and thorough investigation. The public prosecutor's office will conduct a thorough investigation, unbiased, and get to the bottom of the truth. And based on investigation, we can find justice. And finding truth about this situation, I will do everything I can to cooperate with that. Already in the secretary team of the Blue House, we said we will cooperate actively with the prosecutor's investigation. If necessary, I myself will cooperate with the public prosecutor's investigation, and even the special investigation team will accept the investigation by the special investigation team. My fellow Koreans, since I took office and became president, I always concerned whether there is any issue arising from my personal relations. I even detach myself from my family relations. And as I live by myself, there are many personal affairs that I need help from other people. And I turned to Choi Soon-sil, who had long relationship with me, and I got help from her, and I had exchanges with her. In my most difficult times, she was there for me. So I found myself to let my guard down around her. And looking back, I trusted my personal relationship with her, and I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't put high standard to people around me who had personal relationships with me. I find myself very difficult to forgive myself. I feel gravely saddened. I couldn't sleep at night. I don't know what I could do to allay this anger from the public, and I wonder why I became president. I feel devastated. I want to make sure that I don't cause any pain to the people of Korea in my great efforts to do so. And seeing the opposite happening is devastating, and it breaks my heart. And even there are rumors that I am involved in some cult, and there are some shamanistic rituals held in the Blue House, and all those rumors are not true. I want to make that clear. I made great efforts to create new growth engine for the national economy, and all these projects that I initiated are now being stigmatized as corrupted projects, which I find deeply regrettable. Some mistakes, some errors took place, but still, we do need to maintain this effort to create growth engines for the national economy, and I urge you to help us continue this great project. I once again express my deepest and sincerest apology to the people of Korea, and I accept my wrongdoings. In my deep mind, I do not maintain a personal relationship with those people, but I will make sure that I'm not going to be affected by these personal relationships. I should have explained myself all along, but there is a special investigation going on by public prosecutor's office, so I think it's inappropriate for me to give full explanation about what happened. So I feel regrettable that I can't be in this position, and my comments should not get in the way of fair investigation. So I can't give my full explanation about the situation, but whenever the time is right, I will do so. And through this investigation, if anyone found guilty, they will face punishment, and I myself will accept responsibility. My fellow Koreans, Korea is in a very serious security situation, and the national economy is in difficult situation. There are many issues at home and abroad that we need to address. The state affairs must continue. The presidential term is limited, but the country, the Republic of Korea, must continue. We should avoid any more confusion and chaos in the political circle. The fact-finding will be in the hands of the public prosecutors. The government must resume its own role and do its duty. This responsibility entrusted by the people of Korea should not come to a halt. I ask all the leaders of the social and religious groups, the political leaders, the ruling and opposition parties, I will communicate with them and I'll accept the request of the National Assembly and the request of the public. Once again, I express my deepest and sincerest apology to the people of Korea.
Okay, well, President Park Geun-hye, we've just been watching President Park Geun-hye give a special televised address to the nation on the corruption scandal that has rocked the nation over the past couple of weeks, looking solemn and dressed in what appeared to be all black as well. She, as expected, issued her second apology to all Koreans for the pain and distress the controversy has caused to the nation. Ji-hye, going back to you, can you give us a wrap-up of what you picked out of the President's address?
Sure. As you mentioned and widely expected, she did give her second apology over the latest scandal. She said, "I find difficult to forgive myself." And now this apology comes 10 days after the previous one President Park also delivered 10 days ago. And she also expressed her will to undergo investigation by state prosecutors. Calls for the president to go through a prosecution probe has been growing after claims that President Park ordered her key aides to force local companies to pour massive amount of funds to cultural foundations. They are K-Sports and Mir Foundation, and the foundations are believed of Choi Soon-sil to have being operated and established. Now, all this comes as President Park tries to put a lid on the scandal and ease rising public anger, as well as get state affairs running. The scandal has caused massive disruption in state affairs.
Yeah, some of the things I picked out of what the president said. She said the prosecution will get to the bottom of the truth, and she said she didn't really want to talk too much right now because it should be left into the hands of the prosecutors. But she said it breaks her heart to cause so much pain to the Korean people, and finds the situation very devastating. And she said it was her mistake and her error. Going back to the sincerity then, and in regards to the latest appointment for the country's Prime Minister nominee, he's yet to be approved by the National Assembly. There's lots of arguments going on there, but can you tell us more about that?
Sure. President Park nominated Kim Byung-jun earlier this week as the country's prime minister, but the appointment has been facing strong opposition, especially from the parliament's opposition party lawmakers. They have refused to conduct a confirmation hearing for nominee Kim. Unlike other key government posts, a parliamentary approval is a must for a prime minister to be appointed. So this could be seen as one of the reasons why President Park Geun-hye will seek for an agreement from the National Assembly. Now, Prime Minister nominee Kim Byung-jun has earlier said that he will do everything he can to fulfill the duties of the position should he become the country's next prime minister. Kim has also confirmed speculation that the prime minister's role for the remainder of the Park Geun-hye administration will be the most expansive of any other administration in the nation's modern history. But most importantly, Kim said that he is open to the possibility of an investigation into the president, which President Park just agreed on.
Yeah, so we're going to be going shortly over to our presidential office correspondent and also our National Assembly correspondent in a short while. We'll get into that in a while. But in regards to the pick for the Prime Minister then, there's been lots of reshuffling going on, Gia,
exactly.
hasn't there? Earlier
Right.
this week, President Park tapped a new Chief of Staff and also a new key aide as well. Tell us more about that.
Right. Just before that, on the day of announcing a new Prime Minister nominee, she also replaced the finance and safety ministers. And just a day after that, as you mentioned, she appointed new top office aides. Han Kwang-ok, a chairman of the Presidential Committee for National Cohesion, is the new Chief of Staff. The four-term lawmaker who also served as the chief aide to former President Kim Dae-jung has long been a symbol of national unity and democracy in Korea. Heo Won-jae was appointed as the new chief aide for political affairs. The seasoned reporter, who also functioned as a standing commissioner at the Korea Communications Commission, is anticipated to closely coordinate and communicate with the media, the parliament, and diverse sectors across society.
OK, we're watching a rerun of the President's address while you're speaking to us, Gia. And let's talk more about the ongoing probe for just a short while into this scandal. What's the latest on the prosecution's investigation?
Well, Korea's state prosecutions will request an arrest warrant for An Jong-bum. He is the former presidential secretary for policy coordination. The prosecution will request the warrant today. The prosecution put An under emergency detention Wednesday night, saying he could try to destroy evidence if he was released. The prosecution has to decide whether to file an arrest warrant within 48 hours of detention, so it's about time to file the arrest warrant. It's alleged An forced local firms to donate huge amounts of money to Mir and K Sports foundations, which Choi Soon-sil is believed to have established and operated, as we mentioned earlier. During questioning, An reportedly said the president was directly involved in affairs related to the cultural foundations, and this is pretty much why President Park today just now agreed for on a special prosecution on her. Meanwhile, a Seoul court has issued an arrest warrant for Choi Soon-sil over allegations of abuse of authority and attempted fraud. This is expected to speed up the investigation into Choi, who is mired in a number of other criminal allegations as well.
Yeah, this really is a snowballing scandal now, and President Park is trying to allay the public outrage over this scandal. More and more revelations coming out by the day, by the hour, as you said before.
Right.
Let's just touch upon briefly on what President Park said during her address. Before, she said it breaks her heart to cause so much pain to the Korean people over this scandal. She finds the situation absolutely devastating. She said it was her mistake and error, and the prosecution will get to the bottom of the truth as well. She also said she will personally cooperate with the prosecution, and she said she did get help from Choi Soon-sil. She said Chair was there for her at her most difficult points. She says she can't forgive herself and she doesn't know what she can do. But she did say there's no truth at all to any of these rumors going around on the internet.
Especially about her religion that she is.
Right, and in regards to the cult and the shamanistic rumors that have been doing the rounds on the internet. Now, we are going to cross over now to the presidential office. Our presidential office correspondent Song Ji-sun for the reaction from the top office to President Park's address. Ji-sun, what are we hearing there?
Mark, it was a very grave situation where the president stepped out in a very serious facial, and she started by bowing to the press and the public, saying that she's deeply sorry once again for all the allegations and the scandal caused by Choi Soon-sil and the related allegations. She said she is deeply sorry and she will take all the responsibility, and she is willing to undergo public prosecutor's investigation, and she will also take all the responsibility, and she is very deeply sorry to all the people for disappointing them. She said, however, all she cared about all throughout the while was about the nation, and she would like to take the responsibility of carrying out state affairs. She said we should not be slowing down the nation's growth engines, and all the state affairs and the domestic affairs must go on, and she would do all that she can to better communicate with the public, with the press, with the media, and with the politicians, as well as all the sectors across the society. She said she was seeking help from Choi Soon-sil because she was a longtime friend, because for errands and such things that she needed help in, but she has since cut that tie with Choi Soon-sil, and she will not contact with Choi anymore. She also said that there should be no blank and there should be no stopping of carrying out public affairs and of the government affairs, as well as her policy drives, and she will take the demands from the public as well as the parliament, and she bowed once again before stepping out of the podium. She also stepped toward the press in particular and saying sorry once again to the press, and that she will try her best to meet the demands and the expectations of the people. But what we could know was that she was willing to carry out the public affairs and the political affairs, and the things will not go on, and she will take responsibility, particularly through investigation of the prosecution. That's all I have for now. I'll be back with more from here at the top office. Back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Ji-sun, for that report. A hive of activity behind Ji-sun there at the top office. It's going to be a very busy day for all the journalists there today. Now we're going to cross over to our parliamentary correspondent, Ji Myung-gil, for the reaction from the National Assembly to President Park's address. Myung-gil, do we hear any word yet from the rival parties?
Well, hello, Mark. The opposition parties said the president's remarks were not much different from her first apology on the Choi Soon-sil scandal, and that it wasn't enough to ease public anger about the affair. The opposition parties also called on President Park Geun-hye to submit an investigation by the prosecution and agree to an independent counsel investigation for the case. They also urged her to explain why she did not interact with her presidential aides when she met with the heads of the conglomerate suspected of involvement with the two government-linked foundations. However, the ruling Saenuri Party hasn't yet given an official response to the address. The opposition party said they would like to meet with President Park to urge her to reconsider her nominee for prime minister so that a neutral cabinet can be formed. They have already criticized her choice of Kim Byung-jun, a former policy advisor to the late Liberal President Roh Moo-hyun. Meanwhile, the ruling Saenuri Party plans to hold a general meeting of its lawmakers this afternoon to decide the fate of the party's leadership. Members of the non-pro-Park faction want party leader Lee Jong-yeon to resign, of which Lee refused to quit, so that he won't resolve the current crisis. Mark?
Well, thank you, Myung-gil, for that report. Stood outside the National Assembly in Yeouido in Western Seoul with the latest. We're going to hear news throughout the day on what the rival parties have had to say about President Park Geun-hye's second apology to the nation for this scandal that has rocked the nation. Bringing Ji-hye back in for a minute. So there's a real rupture in the National Assembly about the Prime Minister nominee. If he is approved, he's going to wield a lot of power now for the remainder of President Park's term. Can you tell us more about him?
Yeah, Kim, who was a policymaker under the Liberal Roh Moo-hyun administration, also he said that he will have authority over both social and economic policy. He also said he would seek to establish an open channel of communication in agreement with the political parties, meaning that he won't take the post without the agreement from the parliament. He also said he would consult with the parliament and the ruling and opposition parties in all issues, including a cabinet reshuffle.
Well, lots of changes on the horizon still, I'm sure. We're going to get a rundown, a replay of the full entirety of President Park's address to the nation. So let's take another look.
That was...
My fellow Koreans, First of all, I would like to offer my deepest apology for causing disappointment and concern for the people of Korea regarding the Choi Soon-sil situation. Above all, I know that the people of Korea entrusted me to be the president and run the state affairs, and I incurred pain to the people of Korea, and it breaks my heart for causing such pain to Korean people. There are many people who worked with me in the government and on the scene and in the business sector who gave help to the government to do its job with good faith and good heart, and I feel deeply regrettable. I find it regrettable that I caused disappointment. I became president to help the life of citizens and improve the national economy, and I pursued many projects with that idea, and in the process, some individuals violated law in their own private gain and involved in fraud, and I find that devastating. All this situation is fault of mine and my mistake and my error. I do feel grave responsibility for this situation. Yesterday, Choi Soon-sil was arrested for grave crime, and An Jong-bum, former senior secretary for policy coordination, was arrested for investigation, and the special investigation team in state prosecutors are conducting prompt and thorough investigation. The prosecutor will conduct a thorough and fair and just investigation, unbiased and uninterrupted, and get to the bottom of the truth. And those who are responsible will face punishment. I will cooperate with finding truth and conducting investigation regarding this scandal. The Secretary Office of the Blue House will cooperate with the public prosecutor's investigation. I gave that order to the Secretary Office, and if necessary, I will cooperate with state prosecutor's investigation, and even a special investigation by state prosecutors. I will cooperate with that. My fellow Koreans, since I took office and became president, I made great efforts to ensure not to cause any problems. I distanced myself from my family members. And as I live alone, there are many personal affairs that I need help with, and I couldn't find many help. And as such, I turned to Choi Soon-sil, who had long relationships with me. I got help from her, and I had exchanges with her. In my most difficult times, she was there for me. So I found myself letting my guard down around her. Looking back, based on these personal relationships, and I let my guard down, and I didn't impose high standard around the people around me, I find it very difficult to forgive myself, and I feel deeply saddened, and I find it very difficult to sleep at night. I don't know how I can allay the anger of the public, and I feel devastated as to why I became president to cause such pain to the people of Korea. I made great efforts to caused no pain to Korean people, and seeing the opposite happened, I find devastated and I feel very saddened. And there are some rumors that I am a member of religious cult, and there are some shamanistic rituals held at the Blue House, and those rumors are not true. I want to be very clear about that. There are many projects that I initiated to create new growth engine, and there are many state affairs that I ran with great objective, and now these projects are stigmatized as corrupt projects, and I find that very regrettable. There are some wrongdoings, but it should not get in the way of our effort to create new growth engine for the national economy, and I urge your understanding. Once again, I accept my responsibility, and I beg forgiveness from the people of Korea. In deep down, I sever this personal relations, but still I will make sure that I will not maintain this personal relationship. About what happened, I know I should explain, but there is an ongoing investigation by the state prosecutors, and giving full explanation about details of what happened would not be appropriate, so I offer my apology for not being able to do so. Some of my explanations might get in the way of a just and fair investigation. That is why I cannot give you full explanation about what happened. But when the time is right, I will be ready to reveal everything and give full explanation about what happened. And anyone who found guilty from this investigation will face punishment accordingly, and I myself will accept responsibility. I am ready for that. My fellow Koreans, Korea is faced with serious security situation, and the national economy is in a difficult time. There are many issues at home and abroad that we need to address, so the state affairs must not be stopped. The term in office by the president is limited, but the Republic of Korea, the country, must continue its course. We need to stop further chaos in state affairs, and we will delegate the work of fact-finding and investigation to state prosecutors, and the government must resume its role in running state affairs. We will do the responsibility entrusted by the public, and I ask all the leaders from society, religious group, the ruling and opposition parties, we will communicate with all the leaders and also with the public, and I'll accept requests from the public and requests from the National Assembly. Once again, I would like to express my deepest and sincerest apology to Korean people.
Well, we've just been watching a replay of President Park Geun-hye's address to the nation over the corruption scandal that's caused waves, to say the least, here in Korean society. Jie, thank you ever so much for joining me in the studio this morning.
My pleasure.
Well, we're going to have a full rundown of the President's remarks during our next newscast. It's coming up at noon Korea time. In about 1 hour from now, you can find all the latest on this scandal and a lot more on our website, arirang.com/news. In the meantime, please stay tuned to Arirang TV. Goodbye.